Criteria number one, knowledge of language processing. There are 5 language processing requirements. Number one, phonological. Number two, orthographic. Number three, semantic. Number four, syntactic. Number five, discourse. Understanding how we read is like building a house. You must pour a solid foundation of sounds and build a sturdy frame of letters before you can install the mechanical systems of meaning, adding insulation with grammar, and finally putting on the roof to achieve full comprehension. So we begin the process phonologically. Phonological processing is the ability to recognize and work with the sound structure of spoken language. A deficit here directly hinders a student's ability to learn letter sounds and sound out words, which is the foundation of reading. The second tier is orthographic processing. It involves recognizing the letter patterns that form the visual frame of written words. Weakness in this area leads to slow, non-automatic reading and poor spelling because students cannot quickly recognize a word's structure. The middle tier, semantic processing, is the ability to understand the meaning of individual words, the working parts of mechanics of the language. Students with poor semantics may read words fluently, but will fail to comprehend the meaning of what they've read. The next level is syntactic processing. That's the ability to understand the rules of grammar that insulate sentences and hold them together. A student struggling with syntax will get lost in long, complex sentences and misunderstand who did what to whom. And the fifth and final tier of language processing requirements is discourse processing. It's the highest level of integrating sentences to understand a whole text meaning and structure. A deficit here prevents students from summarizing, identifying the main idea, or making inferences from a passage. Understanding how these 5 distinct yet interconnected processes work together is the key to understanding every reader in our classroom. Criteria number 2, factors that contribute to literacy development. Researchers have discovered a student's journey to becoming a skilled reader is not shaped by a single element, but rather by a complex interplay of 6 critical factors: cognition, behavior, environmental, social, linguistic, and neurobiological. Cognition involves the mental processes that support learning, such as attention, processing speed, and memory. Behavioral factors refer to the pattern of motivation, confidence, and practice that emerges from a student's early reading experiences. Environmental factors includes all external influences, primarily the home and school environments. Social factors refer to the interaction of the individual in the group. Learning is profoundly influenced by interactions with parents, teachers, and peers who model and support literacy activities. Linguistic factors refer to the foundational language skills a student possesses, both in oral and written structures. And lastly, neurobiological. This refers to the brain structure and function as it relates to reading. A student's literacy development is profoundly impacted by convergence of interconnected factors. What drives this development are the student's innate linguistic skills and their underlying neurobiology, which determine how their brain is structured to process language. How these foundations are built upon depends on cognitive abilities like working memory, which allow the student to mentally juggle sounds and words, and crucial environmental factors such as the amount of language exposure they receive at home. This process is further shaped by social interactions where skilled guidance from teachers and parents scaffolds learning and by the student's own resulting behaviors. Why this is crucial is because positive early experiences create a motivating feedback loop of practice and success, while early struggles can lead to avoidance and a widening skill gap, ultimately determining whether a child becomes a confident, proficient reader or faces a lifelong challenge. In criteria number 3, I will explain literacy foundations, starting with the bedrock of oral language and phonemic awareness, building through decoding skills, printed word recognition, spelling and reading fluency, and on to the ultimate goals of reading comprehension and written expression. Let's begin by understanding the process of learning to speak and understand language. This is called the oral language development process. Oral language development unfolds in a predictable sequence, beginning in the pre-linguistic stage where infants learn that sounds communicate meaning through coos and babbles. This progresses to the 1 and 2 word stages where toddlers use single words and then simple phrases like want juice to express entire ideas. During the multi-word stages, a child's sentences rapidly grow from short telegraphic statements to more grammatically complex structures. This sophisticated oral language system is the launching pad for literacy. But for a child to make the leap from hearing words to reading them, they must first develop the ability to consciously assess the individual sounds within those words, the skill that unlocks phonemic awareness and enables decoding. So now that we understand the oral language development process, we can now follow the sequence of these interconnected skills that are the foundations of literacy. We begin with phonemic awareness, which is the ability to identify and manipulate individual sounds and words. This is the single most important predictor of early reading success. Without the ability to hear the sounds in words, a child cannot grasp the alphabetic principle, which is the idea that letters represent sounds. Decoding is the bridge from speech to print. It takes the auditory skill of phonemic awareness and it applies it to the page, allowing a child to connect letters to sounds and read words. Moving beyond the laborious process of decoding, the next skill in the foundations of literacy sequence is printed word recognition. The brain no longer needs to sound out every word where familiar words are known on sight. Once students achieve instant printed word recognition, the next step is to apply that automaticity to connected text, which builds reading fluency, and to written production, which develops spelling. With the mechanical aspects of phonemic awareness, decoding, word recognition, reading, and spelling now automatic, the student is finally free to engage in the ultimate goals of literacy, the active construction of meaning through reading comprehension and the thoughtful communication of ideas through written expression. In summary, providing explicit, systematic instruction in all of these foundational areas is the most effective and equitable way to build the strong literacy skills every student deserves. Criteria number 4 focuses on the reciprocal relationships among the foundations of reading. Decades of research have outlined these essential components as the 5 pillars of reading: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. According to renowned literacy researcher Hollis Scarborough in 2001, it stands to reason that grasping the alphabetic principle would be difficult if a child does not yet appreciate that spoken words consist of phonemes. This illustration you see here depicts the many strands that are woven together into skilled reading. In the components of literacy, phonemic awareness supports phonics by helping students map sounds to letters, while phonics in turn reinforces those sound symbol links. Phonics then supports fluency by enabling automatic word recognition, and fluency promotes comprehension by freeing up cognitive resources for understanding. Simultaneously, vocabulary contributes to comprehension by helping students understand word meanings and is supported by fluency, which improves reading speed and ease. Comprehension is the ultimate goal and is supported by all the other skills: fluency, vocabulary, phonics, and phonemic awareness. Each component both supports and is supported by the others, creating a dynamic system that is essential for effective reading development. Criteria number 5: knowledge of varied reading profiles, including dyslexia. I will explain how the simple view of reading provides a powerful framework for identifying 4 distinct reading profiles, including the specific profile associated with dyslexia. The simple view of reading states that reading comprehension is the product of 2 separate but essential components: word recognition, decoding, and language comprehension. The formula D times LC equals RC acts as a diagnostic lens. A weakness in either component severely compromises reading comprehension. By evaluating a student's strengths and weaknesses in both D and LC, we can plot them into one of 4 distinct profiles, moving beyond the generic label of struggling reader to a precise understanding of their needs. Now let's take a closer look at the 4 reading profiles identified by the simple view of reading, beginning with the first profile. Profile 1 readers are typical at grade level readers. They have strong word recognition and strong language comprehension. These students represent the goal of literacy instruction. They can decode words accurately and automatically, and they possess the vocabulary, background knowledge, and understanding of language structure needed to make meaning from the text. Their word recognition is so effortless that their cognitive resources are freed up to focus entirely on comprehension, making inferences, connecting ideas, and thinking critically about what they read. Profile 2 readers are readers with specific word recognition difficulties, the dyslexia profile. They have poor word recognition but strong language comprehension. This is classic profile for dyslexia. These students often have a strong vocabulary, can understand complex stories when read aloud, and can participate eloquently in class discussions. Their difficulty is not with language itself, but with getting the printed words off the page. Their reading is slow, effortful, and inaccurate. Their spelling is typically very poor. This profile is often described as an unexpected difficulty with reading, as their high language skills would suggest they should be good readers. Research overwhelmingly shows this profile stems from a core deficit in phonological processing, which prevents the brain from efficiently mapping sounds to letters, according to Shaywitz and Shaywitz, 2008. Profile 3 readers are readers with specific comprehension difficulties, sometimes called hyperlexia. They have strong word recognition but poor language comprehension. These students are often referred to as word callers. They can read connected text fluently, accurately, and with excellent expression. To a casual observer, they sound like proficient readers. However, when asked questions about what they just read, they can recall very little and struggle to explain the meaning. Their proficiency with decoding masks a significant weakness in language comprehension strands of the reading rope, such as vocabulary, background knowledge, understanding complex sentences, or making inferences. Profile 4 readers are readers with mixed reading difficulties. They have poor word recognition and poor language comprehension. These students have significant challenges across board. They struggle to decode words accurately and fluently, and they also have underlying weaknesses in oral language, such as limited vocabulary or difficulty understanding sentence structure. This profile is often associated with broader developmental language disorders. Because they have weaknesses in both components of the simple view, their reading comprehension is the most severely impacted. Identifying a student's specific profile is the essential diagnostic step that allows us to select the correct evidence-based instructional approaches to meet their needs. Criterion number 6, knowledge of dyslexia. I will conduct an in-depth exploration of dyslexia. We'll cover its form and definition, our legal responsibilities as educators, and how its characteristics present across the spectrum from mild to severe. The most widely accepted research-based definition comes from the International Dyslexia Association, IDA. It is crucial to understand its parts. Dyslexia is a specific learning disability that's neurobiological in origin. It is characterized by difficulties with accurate and/or fluent word recognition and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. These difficulties typically result from a deficit in phonological component of language that is often unexpected in relation to other cognitive abilities and the provision of effective classroom instruction. Secondary consequences may include problems in reading comprehension and reduced reading experience that can impede growth of vocabulary and background knowledge. Dyslexia is not caused by a lack of effort or intelligence. fMRI studies from researchers like Sally Shaywitz show clear differences in how the brain of an individual with dyslexia activates when reading compared to a typical reader. A deficit in the phonological component is the core root cause. The difficulty lies in processing the sound structure of language, which is a prerequisite for mapping sounds to letters. An unexpected difficulty, this is a hallmark characteristic. The student may be bright, articulate, and curious, yet their struggle with print seems inconsistent with their overall intelligence. As educators, we are legally and ethically bound to support students with reading disabilities. Under federal law, IDEA explicitly names dyslexia as a specific learning disability, mandating that we identify these students and provide services through an IEP. Furthermore, states like Georgia's Senate Bill 48 strengthens this by requiring universal screening, teacher training, and the use of evidence-based intervention, ensuring we provide proactive and effective support. Dyslexia primarily presents as a cluster of difficulties at the word level. The core issues you'll see are trouble sounding out words and persistent poor spelling. This leads directly to fluency problems where reading aloud is slow, choppy, and lacks expression. Ultimately, these primary struggles cause secondary consequences such as poor comprehension due to the immense effort spent on decoding and growing avoidance of reading tasks. It's crucial to understand that dyslexia is not all or nothing. It exists on a spectrum of severity. A student with mild dyslexia may decode but remains a slow reader, with their biggest challenge often being spelling. In contrast, students with moderate dyslexia show clear daily difficulties with phonics and fluency that require intensive intervention. For those with severe dyslexia, the struggle is with the most basic skills like blending sounds, demanding highly specialized and long-term instruction. Therefore, recognizing that dyslexia is a spectrum and understanding its specific characteristics are the first critical step towards providing the timely, evidence-based, and legally mandated support these students need to succeed. Criterion number 7, evidence-based instructional approaches that support the development of reading and writing skills. This section provides an expansive discussion of proven instructional methods and resources for each of the 8 essential components of literacy. The core principle underlining all these approaches is that the instruction must be explicit, systematic, and cumulative, aligning with the body of research known as the science of reading. Let's begin with oral language development. The most effective approach is to create a language-rich environment through intentional interactive conversation. Dialogic reading is a research-proven EBP where the adult uses a picture book to prompt a child with questions, moving beyond simply reading the text. The goal is to encourage the child to become the storyteller. The crowd questioning strategy, completion, recall, open-ended questions, what, when, where questions, distancing is a key part of this method. Using a wordless picture book like Journey by Aaron Becker, the teacher can prompt students with open-ended questions to build narrative skills, vocabulary, and sentence structure. A great online resource, a digital resource, is storylineonline.net, where actors read books aloud. A teacher can pause the video at key points to ask crowd style questions and facilitate discussion, modeling rich vocabulary and expressive reading. Moving on to phonemic awareness, instruction must be explicit and focus solely on the sounds of language without letters. A systematic progression moves from easier skills, such as isolating initial sounds, to more complex ones, like blending, segmenting, and manipulating sounds. The goal is to develop a student's ability to consciously assess the individual phonemes in spoken words. A good print resource is L. Conan boxes. The teacher says a word, the student repeats it and pushes a counter or a chip into a box for each sound they hear. Hegarty Phonemic Awareness offers digital lessons and videos that provide daily 10 to 12-minute or warm-ups covering all the key phonemic awareness skills in a systematic game-like format. Next is decoding skills. A proven evidence-based approach is the Orton-Gillingham structured literacy method, which helps students connect sounds to letters through systematic multisensory instruction. A good print resource are decodable texts. These are short books or passages that are carefully written to contain only the phonics patterns and high frequency words that a student has already been explicitly taught. This allows them to practice their new skills successfully without resorting to guessing. Lalilo is an adaptive digital literacy program that provides students with explicit phonics instruction and practice activities that align with structured scope and sequence, adjusting to their individual needs. Moving on to printed word recognition. Instant word recognition is the result of successful phonics instruction and practice, a process called orthographic mapping. Instead of rote memorization, the most effective EBP is to force students to attend to the internal letter sequence of words. Word chaining or word ladders is an excellent way to do this. A good print resource is a printed word ladder where a child changes one letter at a time to build a new word. This activity requires precise phonemic manipulation and attention to orthography. The popular game Wordle serves as an excellent digital example. It forces players to analyze orthographic patterns, manipulate phonemes, and test letter sound possibilities to solve the puzzle, reinforcing the skills needed for instant recognition. For spelling, a strong research-based method is SOS, simultaneous oral spelling, a multi-sensory technique where students say the word, segment the sounds aloud, name the letters as they write them, and then read the word back. A structured dictation exercise is an example of a print resource. The teacher says a word or a sentence, a student uses the SOS process to write it down, applying the phonics patterns that they've learned. And Nessie Reading and Spelling is a digital program that provides game-based learning activities focused on structured literacy approach, with many activities that require students to encode words based on specific phonics patterns. When it comes to reading fluency, the most well-supported EVP is repeated reading of a text at a student's independent reading level. The goal is to build automaticity so the student can read accurately at a conversational pace and with expression. Partner reading with a fluency chart is a good print resource example. Two students take turns reading the same short passage aloud 3 times. After each read, they can chart their words correct per minute to see their progress in speed and accuracy. Read Naturally Live is a digital intervention program where students work independently. The program models fluent reading of a passage. A student then practices reading it and finally records themselves for the teacher to review with built-in tools for tracking progress. Moving on to reading comprehension. Effective comprehension instruction is explicit and strategic. A key EBP is teaching text structure, which helps students create a mental map for organizing and remembering information from both narrative and expository texts. Using graphic organizers is a good print resource. For a narrative text, a student might fill out a story map, character setting, problem solutions, and for expository text, they might use a Venn diagram, compare and contrast, or cause and effect chart. Newsela.com is a digital platform that provides high interest current event articles on wide range of topics available at multiple reading levels. It allows teachers to embed explicit instructions and comprehension questions directly into the text, guiding students' thinking as they read. And finally, written expression. An incredibly effective evidence-based practice, the writing approach. This involves explicitly teaching grammar and syntax through activities like sentence combining and sentence expansion. A good print resource or example, a worksheet that provides students with 2 or 3 simple sentences and a target conjunction. The student's task is to combine the simple sentences into one more sophisticated, complex sentence. A good digital resource is bookcreator.com. It is an adaptive online writing curriculum. It helps students practice and master grammar and syntax skills through high interest exercises, providing instant feedback and guiding them towards constructing more complex and well-informed sentences. Ultimately, mastering this toolkit of evidence-based strategies for each component empowers us as educators to diagnose and deliver the precise instruction every student needs to succeed. And criteria number 8, I will explain specific evidence-based literacy strategies that can be implemented in high school content areas of math, science, and social studies. Let's begin with math literacy. A powerful strategy for building literacy in math classroom is math journaling. This approach, where students regularly write about their mathematical thinking, is impactful because it forces them to clarify their understanding, use precise vocabulary, and explain their reasoning in a coherent way. A great print resource for this is a Math Bell Ringer journal for the entire school year, which provides daily prompts to get students writing. For a digital option, a platform like ClassKick.com allows students to write and draw a digital journal where students can provide immediate individualized feedback. For example, to apply this standard MGSE5.MD.1 on converting measurements, a journal prompt could be explain in words how you would figure out how many inches are in 3.5 feet. What is the most common mistake someone might make when solving this problem? This pushes students beyond just calculating an answer and requires them to articulate the entire conversion process. Moving on to science literacy. In the classroom, a highly effective literacy strategy is the Claim Evidence Reasoning Framework, or CER. This approach teaches students to structure scientific arguments by first making a clear claim, then supporting it with specific evidence from their observations or data, and finally explaining the scientific reasoning that connects the evidence back to the claim. CER is impactful for literacy learning because it moves students beyond simply stating facts and forces them to engage in authentic scientific practice by building and justifying an argument. A great print resource is a lab report scaffold that explicitly sections out the claim, evidence, and reasoning, guiding students through the writing process. For a digital resource, phet.edu offers interactive simulations where students can gather data to use as evidence. For example, to address standard SB 1A on cell functions after using a PHET simulation on cell membranes, a student's CER might be claim. The cell membrane helps maintain homeostasis. Evidence. In simulation, water moved into the cell, but larger molecules did not. Reasoning. This shows the membrane is selectively permeable, controlling what enters and leaves to keep the cell's internal environment stable. Finally, social study literacy. For social studies, the document-based question or DBQ is a cornerstone of historical literacy. This approach is impactful because it moves students beyond memorizing dates and teaches them to think like historians, analyzing multiple primary sources to craft a sophisticated evidence-based argument. Excellent print resources like the document sets from the Standard History Education Group provide curated primary sources for analysis. A great digital resource is newsela.com, which offers primary source documents and articles that can be used to build custom DBQ. To apply this to standard SS5H3 on World War II's impact, a DBQ prompt could be, how did U.S. involvement in World War II most significantly affect the home front? Students would then analyze documents like propaganda posters, letters from factory workers, and rationing statistics to construct their written argument. In conclusion, teaching content and teaching the literacy skills needed to assess that content are one and the same. Criteria number 9, communicating content. To communicate the key concepts of literacy, acquisition, and dyslexia, I will share this professional development presentation during team meetings, professional learning communities, and staff workshops. This session would be used as engaging visuals, real-world case studies, and evidence-based instructional examples to accommodate a range of learning styles. Stakeholders, including general education teachers, special educators, instructional coaches, and interventionists, would be invited to reflect on how this information applies to their roles. Supplementary materials such as handouts, digital access to the slides, and strategy guides will be shared to support future implementation. To promote reciprocal engagement, I would encourage stakeholder dialogue by incorporating think, pair, share, collaborating planning time, and feedback surveys. These structures allow colleagues to share their expertise and ask questions, creating space for ongoing professional learning. The goal is not just to present information, but to foster a learning community where teachers support one another in applying literacy practices across content areas. Follow-up meetings and co-teaching opportunities could further strengthen this shared commitment to literacy instruction. Criteria number 10, reflection on the professional development project. This professional development project has significantly deepened my understanding of how students acquire literacy skills and how dyslexia impacts learning. By engaging with current research and instructional frameworks, I have developed greater confidence in identifying students' needs and selecting strategies that are both developmentally appropriate and scientifically supported. The process has reinforced the importance of explicit instruction, early intervention, and a collaboration among educators to ensure no student is left behind in reading. Looking forward, this project has opened my eyes to the immense potential of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence in education. While I used AI as a tool in the development of this presentation, its true value lies in the future application within my practice. I'm excited by the prospect of leveraging AI to automate administrative tasks and streamline paperwork, which will free up invaluable time. This reclaimed time can be reinvested directly into students, allowing more hands-on implementation of evidence-based instructional methods discussed here, with AI even assisting in the creation of tailored learning materials. We are on the cusp of teaching a generation that may have a smartphone from birth. As educators, we face a critical choice. Either we thoughtfully implement this new technology to support learning, or we risk seeing our students get lost in literacy in ways we've never seen before. It is our responsibility to harness these tools, not just for efficiency, but to meet the needs of a future student who may require more dynamic and challenging learning techniques than ever before. Thank you.